Yes, well, new intro. It took me a little while to figure out how I wanted the intro to be. It's quite hard to do an intro when you have 5 seconds. If you've got 20 minutes, you could do all sorts of funky shit. But 5 seconds, there's a lot to condense that makes something look relatively cool in just 5 seconds. That's not an easy task, but I think we did okay. Oh, look at this, all fancy. That is the Stoneman music because it's sort of cathedral-y, and that picture was taken in a cathedral. It fits rather well, I think. I think it did really well. Look at all the hollers. Oh man, you guys are so awesome. Well, I'm glad you like it. That is, as I've just been talking to the audience before we begin, that is the first of several changes that are going to occur to the daily to turn it more into a show. Something a bit more than just me sat here talking at you guys. We bought our capture card today. It's nearly £190, pretty expensive. But it should enable us to do a lot more things. One of the big issues we have is running everything through one PC. The PC tends to get hot, and also when we try and do very fancy things with live streaming. We have created many cool intros with light rays and all sorts of crazy effects and stuff like that, but the stream program just goes, what the god? If I was a braver man, I'd fall off my chair. It doesn't really like it. So we've purchased the capture card, which should enable us to do much more fancier things. This is not bad, okay? You can get away with this, but this is terrible, bad, terrible fail. And it's the opportunity to have a lot of good stuff behind there. So we want to return the Brofists. We want it to look cool. We want it to look awesome. And there's a little idea I've had of how to incorporate Brofists in a much better way. So that's all going to be coming to the daily over the next week or so. If this capture card arrives tomorrow, which I hope it does in the morning, I'll be installing it early and then beginning what essentially will be the Friday stream. What do I mean by that? Streaming is fun as hell, and plus it's sort of an excuse for me to actually sit and play games rather than dwell on editing a video for ages and ages and ages, because a video is never ever done, a movie is never done. I'm sure when Christopher Nolan watches The Dark Knight or The Dark Knight Rises, he spots a trillion errors he wishes he could go back and correct. They're never finished, they're never perfect. And so I can sit and edit for hours and hours and hours, but I'm hoping to dedicate Friday to just streaming with you guys. Perhaps doing some achievement runs, perhaps playing some different games, but generally Friday will be an excuse for me to kind of play games. Some of the really advanced games, World of Warcraft is not advanced. Let's face facts. It's an old as fuck game. It's relatively easy to stream, but if I want to stream something quite cool and new, we have issues. So hopefully the capture card will fix that, and we should be in glorious stead to go forward. Couple of things. The Transmog competition will close tomorrow. So many good ones. You guys have really put so much effort into your transmog. You know what's weird? Worgens just look really cool, don't they? With the big broad shoulders and the leaning over on the character select screen, the Worgens just look absolutely badass. Some of the best ones I've been looking at are really cool. They will be judged mostly by Ghost. Ghost is very into his transmog. He spends a lot of time doing his transmog. Therefore, he's generally being the big judge. What we will do is a video compilation of everybody's transmog. It's a lot of work because there is a lot. I think we've probably had about 150, nearly 200 by now. That's a lot of things to put together, but we will put them all out there because you took the effort to send them to us. We'll create something out of them. It should be pretty cool. So the awards ceremony is on Saturday. We will be having an awards ceremony with me and the Ghost. It will be incredibly low tech. We will be wearing suits, of course, as it is an awards ceremony. It will be just a mashup of fail, I've no doubt, but there'll also be a web show thrown in there. So your chance to vote on the best and worst things of Cataclysm over at preachgaming.com will also end probably on Saturday. We'll end that on Saturday and we'll end the transmog tomorrow, just so everything can be prepared for the transmog stuff. We want to modify them and give the winner a big gold star, thumbs up celebration and all that kind of stuff. So it should be pretty cool. That's all pretty good. Let's get on to some gaming news. Of course, it's Thursday. Thursdays are always a bit of a rush for me. Thursday is puppy class training day with Ben, which means that in less than an hour, I will be leaving here to go and do puppy class. And puppy class starts at 6 and the show starts at 5. So that's always one thing to bear in mind on a Thursday. I'm sure most of you guys know that already anyway. Gaming news, some pretty interesting and some sad gaming news today. Firstly, PlanetSide 2. I keep talking about PlanetSide 2. I want you guys to try it out. I want you to join us. I want to get a Preach Gaming squad together, as we're called, a squad, where we'll do all sorts of funky things. We're going to work on a technique called the Brofist, and the Brofist shall spread through the PlanetSide 2 community like wildfire, because the Brofist fucks people up who are defending a base. You're defending a base, here comes the Brofist. I want its signature. I want my name all over it. It's going to be cool. They've decided they're going the Blizzard route. It's going to be ready when it's ready, which is kind of sad because we want it now. It is in full beta. There's lots of people playing it. I still haven't had my beta invite. Sad face. But they're saying there's still a load of tweaking to be done. The gunplay's not quite where they want it. It's a brilliant game, but there's a little bit of tweaking and modifying to be done, so it's been pushed back. Essentially is what they're saying. They're going to push it back until it's ready, and they've already said the next expansion is an entirely separate continent. You'll be able to fight continent to continent. It's going to be pretty awesome. Essentially, if we can get the more people that play PlanetSide 2, it's free to play. It's free to play. You can just join in. The better that game will be, because we want thousands versus thousands. We're in the world 2012. No longer are we impressed by 64 versus 64. As excited as we were a few years ago about the prospect of 16 versus 16, 8 versus 8, 32 versus 32 in a big open world, we're online now. We're playing with thousands of people all the time. We can't look at games like WoW, nearly 8 years old, 9 years old, and then say, you know, we were doing it back then. Why are we not doing this now? Hopefully PlanetSide 2 is going to bridge that gap and just have the fucking world versus the world, which is what we're really excited for. We want that. We want smashing bases all the time. But it'll be ready when it's ready. Let's move on to a little bit of sad news, and then I'll bring us back up with some good news. It's not sad in a particular way, but it's also a sort of signifying how powerful your presence can be in a virtual world. I think people sort of disregard the effect they have on other people. Certainly even I do that. When some of you guys send me messages, such as those of you who have suffered with depression, and then you send me a mail saying, when I'm feeling panicky, I had a chat with agoraphobia. If you know what agoraphobia is, it's the fear of going outside. Agoraphobia, sorry. Of going outside. And they stay in their homes and they're not happy. And bridging that gap, one of the guys sent me a message saying he had this condition, and part of his therapy for going outside was something to relax him. It just turned out to be my videos, which is just craziness. To me, to read that, it's like, what? Are you serious? And then I sent a message back saying, dude, that's incredible. He's like, yeah, if I get really panicked, like one of his things was to go to a cafe, just go to a cafe and have breakfast. A relatively normal thing for most of us is just to go to a cafe and have some breakfast. When he does it, he gets very panicked. He really wants to get out of there, wants to go home immediately. Slips on his phone, puts his headphones in, and just listens to me natter away about World of Warcraft. I find that fucking incredible. And people have a presence in communities. How many times have you seen or heard or watched a YouTube video of somebody crying in an MMO? People getting really distraught, relationships being broken up. We've covered that on the channel before, all this kind of stuff. Anyway, WoW is of course not the only MMO out there. There is another MMO, which is something I would love to get into, but I think I've missed the boat on it a little bit. It's EVE. EVE Online. I'm sure many of you have played EVE Online at some point. EVE Online is a game that really, really, really appeals to me because I am a mega nerd. Like, serious mega nerd. Yesterday, Star Trek The Next Generation was on, and I haven't seen that in so long that I face-palmed the world while I watched it. I was like, shut up! Picard is talking. And it was a terrible episode as well, but it didn't matter because terrible episodes in Star Trek are still fucking awesome. So I sat and watched it. EVE, of course, is space-based. I love space. Love everything about space. I tried Star Trek the MMO. Oh, God, it was so bad. I tried Star Wars Galaxies. I just didn't like it. As good as Star Wars Galaxies is, and I'm told by my family members who were very into it how great Galaxies was before they changed it and ruined it, I couldn't get into it. Even though it's something I'm interested in. It's got a nice theme. Lord of the Rings Online. Oh, so bad. All this kind of shit. EVE Online has survived everything. It lives on, it prospers, and it does very, very well. There's some very cool stories that you can get from the history of EVE Online, including the Great Theft. If you didn't know, there's a real money tie to things in EVE Online. And somebody stole around about $40,000 worth of things from somebody in EVE Online in a plot that took almost a year. If you read that, it's fantastic. I actually love it. Although, obviously, I don't want to be the receiving end of such a plot, which was very devious and very cruel and very punishing. But it's the fact that that can occur really interests me. MMOs themselves just really exaggerate what society is like for me sometimes. Not all the time, of course. Some people just fuck about on trikes and collect pumpkins and go on Halloween dailies and all that kind of stuff. But sometimes there's a glimmer of exaggerated community lifestyle. And that kind of stuff is really interesting to me. The topic we're talking about is one of the guys who played Eve and was a member of their player council. They have a player council that directly contacts with the developers of the game, and they define the rules of how space cops and stuff are dealt with and how things should be treated and different changes to the game it might need. A player council is voted by the player base. It'd be like you guys voting for me to be on a player council for World of Warcraft. I speak directly with the devs and take your feedback and so on and so forth. One of those guys was actually a very important guy in the US government and was in Libya. Libya is not in the best of shape, post-revolution. It's not in the best of shape, and he was killed in an attack. Now, people obviously know the guy from his US stuff, from being a senator and all that kind of shit, and that's okay. People mourned him that way. However, he was a major player in EVE as well, and sat in the council. And the response from the EVE community for such a player has been incredible. There's articles everywhere about this. It's really cool. They've organised fundraisers for his wife and his kid, and it just goes to show you that even though you're a faceless person in a game, you're a faceless person, you're a Tauren, you're a Goblin, you're a Dwarf, whatever you might be, some people really care about you. The relationships you build up in game really, really matter, and then you can have a profound impact on those players' lives in real life. These people are genuinely devastated this guy died. There's a couple of people who will go, oh, what did he drop? Or, what does it matter? It's just a guy who doesn't log in anymore. Because we're friends. We are friends. We make friendships, we make communities, we've played together for years. I've spoke about this on a number of occasions. We are genuinely friends, as friendly as I can be with some guy who I know and have met at school or anything like that. We are close friends. Or you build close relationships with these people, and it really matters. Really matters. Another instance of this is one we decided not to talk about. Me and Ghost asked for stories. Your stories. You know, I love your stories. I really love your stories. And me and Ghost asked you for your stories, but one of the messages we got was about a member of a guild who died, and the guild phoned this guy's home. One of the guildies phoned his home and expressed how much he was loved and cared for by the members of his guild, and it just made his mother, because his mother probably thought in the back of her head he was just a nerd, he just stayed in his room, he was quiet, all that kind of stuff, and maybe even had the idea that, you know, he'd never had any friends or anything like that. I'm sure there's a load of mothers out there who have gamer sons and gamer daughters who spend far too much time playing the PC, and they worry about them because when they grow up, you just didn't do that. You didn't do that kind of shit when your parents grew up, right? They were out playing fucking hacky sack and whacking shit with a ball or spinning that big fucking hoop or whatever the fuck it was and playing yo-yos, right? All that kind of stuff while we were inside slaughtering people and cutting heads off. But the guild phoned his parents and his mother and said, you know what? We really cared about him. We're really going to miss him. He was a fantastic person. And that kind of shit really sort of cheers me up, but in a sad way. You can be happy and sad at the same time. I just think it's fucking awesome. It's something to bear in mind when you're dealing with other people. It's sort of the root of what I'm trying to get at. When you're dealing with other people in game, remember that there's still other people at the other side of that PC, and your anonymity doesn't always go unnoticed. Is what I'm trying to say there. Let's go on to some WoW stuff and get off that subject. Let's not get all sad and ropey. I released a video today, which is the first of the Healer Week. As I said, I haven't had much raid healing experience for quite a while, but I want to get the best out for you guys and still be in that tutorial, educational manner. So I turned to two ballers. Two ballers, one of them a member of Method, Apco, who's been a Holy Paladin for many a year. Many a year, and one of the best healers I've ever met. Glubzar, my ex-healing officer, and still healing to this day. 6 years healing on a Resto Druid. And I said, guys, let's talk about healing in Mists of Pandaria. You've both leveled to 90, you've both done the raids. Let's get a conversation started about the healers and how they deal with going into a new expansion. Now, that video is up. You can go and watch it. A lot of people have seen it already. Well, the point was, there's a lot of reasons. I should say, how do I word this correctly? It's hard to find reasons to play with friends at the moment because Cataclysm is in this weird flux period where we're basically playing Mists of Pandaria without having Mists of Pandaria. Don't be mistaken to not think that the isle is out there, they just haven't turned the Zeppelin on. So we're basically playing Mists of Pandaria. We're not playing Cataclysm anymore, we just haven't got access to the island, which is a weird place. We're in this fluxy period. Some people are having fun on their own, trying out new talents, playing alts, doing all that kind of crazy stuff. But in terms of things you want to do together, it's been a long time since I've asked someone to come to a heroic with me. Sometimes I do it with you guys. Sometimes the guys who are on my real ID or people in Stark. It's rare, but I do sometimes say, do you want to go for a heroic? Do you want to do something? And that's all very well and good. But as great as you guys are, they're not my close personal friends. My close personal friends who I've known for years and years, it's very difficult for me to find a reason to play with them. And that's a real shame. And it's something that dawned on me today while we were all playing Mists of Pandaria in a Heroic. We just joined a Heroic and had a bit of a chat, and we did something before, we did something after. It was really, really cool just sitting and talking to them. I haven't been able to do that for a while because there isn't much reason to. I'm sure you guys have noticed this as well. So basically, Apco, who the heck don't call him that? Sorry, that caught me right out the corner of my eye. Yes, Elfie from The Way of the Warrior. It's finding a hard reason to actually play with the guys, and it was a great experience. Well, one of the great things about when you build friends, or the friends I tend to make, are really, they're never yes people. Yes people are people who desperately want to be your friend and just agree with everything you say all the time, even if their opinion differs. Nothing wrong with having an opinion. Having an opinion is okay, as long as you're not a moron and your opinion is clearly wrong. And the guys had various opinions about things that they've seen on my channel, which was cool. It was so good to get that kind of feedback without sort of raging, because these are my friends and they want the best for me as I want the best for them. One of the things that came up was challenge modes. Brought us all the way there. Challenge modes. Coincidentally, Blizzard did a huge post today about challenge modes. One of the things that it was actually Apco said to me, he said, on the subject of challenge modes, I disagree with what you said about them. I was like, what did I say? I often forget. He said, I don't think they will be as easy as you think they will be. Which was where I think my message has come across incorrectly. I do not think challenge modes will be easy. I don't think they will be as hard as Blizzard is claiming them to be. As expected, it was related back to a TBC Heroic, which was notoriously difficult. And we had to go into discussion then that it can't ever be as difficult as a TBC Heroic for a number of reasons. And it's also good to be able to completely nerd out. Oh, I had such a great afternoon. Completely nerding out with people who are also mega nerds about the kind of thing you want to talk about. Sometimes I just want to sit the fuck down and talk about WoW mechanics. I do. That's why I have a show where I get to do that. I get to do this for a living now. It's fucking excellent. Because I go to my friends and I'm like, dude, did you see the change to shield barrier? And they look at me and they go, what? The fuck are you talking about? Did you see the football? And I go, damn. I fucking hate football. And I want to talk about some real nerd stuff. I want to get nitty gritty with nerd stuff. So I got into the discussion of the challenge modes are not going to be as hard as TBC Heroics for a number of reasons. One of them is game mechanics. Simply put, from a very basic sense, is AoE tanking. For most classes, besides prop paladins, AoE tanking was incredibly difficult during TBC, and it's not anymore. One of the great difficulties of these heroics was that it was difficult to aggro all the mobs while people were blowing them up. It was really hard. You had to be a very, very good tank in order to pull that off. So the sheer fact that it's much easier to AoE tank nullifies a lot of the difficulty that could be existing comparatively to a TBC heroic. However, I do not think they will be easy. I touched a challenge mode once or twice with some randoms. It didn't go well, but purely because people weren't expecting that, and there's a lot of people who aren't ready for what perhaps a TBC difficulty level of heroic is like. It's very difficult to be prepared for that if you join during Wrath of the Lich King and join during Cataclysm. It's very difficult to do that, and that's not your fault. It's nobody's fault except Blizzard's for changing the difficulty, and correctly so. TBC heroics were too hard. I know some people look at them like, I did a TBC heroic, I'm the awesome shit. Well, good for you, but they were still too hard for most of the player base. They were too hard. In general, if you're a good player and you're surrounded by good people and you still have a bad time, it's probably too difficult for the majority of the player base. If you take this game way too seriously and try really, really hard, especially when I tried harder than I do today back then, I was so into every single key press I ever pressed, then it was probably too hard for the majority of the player base, for the people who really no-lifed into the various mechanics of the game. So it didn't go particularly well, but I have no doubt that it will go well when I play with my friends in Mists of Pandaria. I'm sure it will be fine. In fact, we were both, all three of us were relatively angry that we can't do any cross-realm challenge modes. That's quite sad, because we were thinking, well, we would have them and them doing this, and them doing this, and then now all our team is spread across various levels. So let's talk about challenge modes. My issue with challenge modes is not the difficulty level. I think they will be difficulty appropriate. My issue with challenge modes is the emphasis that's put on them for being a long-term form of entertainment. That's what I don't think will happen. I don't think challenge modes are a long-term means of gaming entertainment in World of Warcraft. I don't. And they're very much being marketed and pushed as being that. As, well, yeah, but you've always got challenge modes to do. No matter which way you twist it, a challenge mode is still the same dungeon we ran on normal and heroic. So that in itself takes away from doing the challenge mode. Added to that is some people really, really will not like the difficulty. Now, if we believe Blizzard of what they've said today, I have this up here, or I did, and then I closed it because I'm so fucking pro. I'm so good. It's like scary good, how good I am. Whatever. It seems that my internet browser has crashed while I've been talking, whatever. It appears to me that Blizzard is saying we don't want to nerf them under any circumstances. Should a boss be too difficult across the board, then that boss will obviously be tweaked, but that will be tweaked in normal, it'll be tweaked in heroic, and it'll be tweaked in challenge mode equally if we find that's too difficult. But they want, as much as possible, leave challenge mode as it is right now. I'm okay with that. However, that is really going to piss off a lot of people. A hell of a lot of people are going to be really pissed off. Whoa, my browser just kicked back into life. Ah, scary. A lot of people are going to be seriously pissed off with that because it's going to be too hard compared to what they're used to. And that worries me a little bit. Because I don't think they will have any choice. If there is serious outcry from the majority of the player base, or even a significant portion of the player base, that challenge modes are simply too difficult and contain the best transmog gear, that is a complete conflict of interest. A really big conflict of interest. Most of the people I know who are really, really into transmog are more casual players. They're not the players who are desperately seeking the most difficult content. Of course there are overlaps. Of course there are people in the most difficult content who also care about their transmog. And of course there are people who are terrible at the game who just want difficulty. There is always going to be that overlap. But I'm talking from most people I've met who are very, very into transmog. They're the more casual players. They perhaps prefer to play with friends and don't care about the skill level of those friends, and so on and so forth. Therefore, that player base is being sort of pushed into the challenge mode situation where they really, really won't like it. They're just not... I don't think that's going to happen long term, and then you're going to get the feedback is challenge mode's ridiculous. There is bound to be some trash in some challenge mode that drops a really cool piece of transmog gear that is fucking really hard. The nerfs will come. Of course they will. Now, Blizzard has said they might have to nerf it. They might have to. And they're always going to keep their options open. They're never going to say, we're never going to nerf it. They can't say that because more likely they will have to. Especially if that transmog gear is really cool. I desperately need these shoulders. And I need the gold medal in, I don't know, Temple of the Jade Serpent. And that dungeon is incredibly difficult. This isn't fair, it's bullshit. I pay my $8 a month or $10 a month or whatever it is. You know, that same discussion that we have over and over again is going to pop up. It's happened with everything. We don't want to nerf raids. Raids are nerfs. We don't want to nerf heroics. Heroics are nerfs. It happens every time. Challenge mode should be no different. I want to know what you guys think about challenge modes long term. I can predict this happening. The really good players will do it because it's there to do. The really good, the hardcore, the dedicated, the people who play too much, the people who don't play a lot but are still really good, will do it because it's there to do, and will probably quite quickly gain the gold medals and then never do them again. Then we've got people start gradually moving down who might get a bronze, silver, and then a gold, and then they've done it. Then we get to the people who probably won't get past the silver, and after a few tries are likely to give up. And then we've got people who will not get a bronze, who will struggle to get the bronze medal. And then they're just going to be pissed off because there's going to be a lot of people in that barrier. If we had simply to extrapolate data from the people who've killed Heroic Madness of Deathwing, which is a lot of people now, but player base wide, it really is not a lot of people. It's a very small amount of people, even with the dramatic nerfs that have occurred in the Dragon Soul. If we're to take that portion of people and say they are the people who are between gold and bronze, it's so small. It's really, really small. It's a very small proportion of people. And there's a lot. There is a tremendous amount of people below that number who may struggle to get the bronze, and they're the ones who... There's going to be a lot of people in there, simply by numbers of people in there who are desperately doing a lot of transmog stuff and want that gear. What situation are we going to be left in? Long-term entertainment? I don't think so. Let's see some of the... what's the answers here? Ghost is saying they weren't too hard. I recall, I think Ghost did it with two healers, if I'm pretty sure. I did some of those with 2 healers. Heroic for a reason. Yeah, a lot of people say that. They should be heroic. It's too easy to forget that this game is aged for, is it 11 plus or 13 plus? Very, very young guys. This game is targeted at that age group. It really is. You forget that sometimes, especially us being older. We forget about that kind of stuff, which we shouldn't do. Pretty sure that browser's crashed as well. I'm going to reload it. So let's jump on to today's question. It's a question I wanted to talk about a little bit, but it's a very specific question. It's about targeting issues within tanking large packs. This can be a huge pain in the ass. And it's something that's linked to the challenge modes, because when you're in challenge modes, you need to be doing specific things to specific mobs. You'll have a mob who's casting the Death Bolt. So you need to be spell reflecting that guy, you need to know when he's casting it, or you need to be interrupting it, you need to be tracking him in some fashion. You'll have the guy who has the Death Swing, he needs to be disarmed. You also need to track the other guy for doing the shockwaves. I'm just talking from a warrior perspective. So we need to pick these guys out of the map. Now someone said you just press tab, right? Not all the time. Tab is not that useful when we're doing difficult heroics. Difficult heroics require very specific targeting of mobs, and tab sometimes fails us. It's failed people on a number of occasions. How many times have we seen bosses pulled by tab targeting? This guy just said, I've just been watching your tanking vids. Well, it's one thing I have an issue with. It's mouse targeting very specific mobs very quickly. When he tanks large packs, I sometimes have difficulties tanking the right one using my mouse. I generally do not tab target, but rather click the nameplate, like I think you do as well. But unlike me, you seem to actually manage to target the mob you click. The nameplates end up behind the other mobs somehow, and it can get a bit messy with trigger-happy DPS pulling stragglers off me. Now, in terms of tanking mobs that are targeting somebody else, I use a mod called Tidy Plates, okay? But that mod didn't exist when I started tanking, so I have had the benefit of learning to tank visually without any aids in terms of colour changes. That's the only reason I can do very, very quick mouse targeting, is that I tanked before mods like Tidy Plates existed, which said, this guy's red, he's killing your DPS, click the red one and you're fine. That's why I still mouse target. I'm not very into tab targeting while tanking a very... Look at my fingers. I'm tabbing while... It's so fucking stupid. I'm talking about tab targeting and I'm tabbing my table. I'm like tab targeting you guys. It's like I'm flicking through the audience. I'm like, yeah, tab him. And then with the other hand, I'm clicking my mouse. I fucking talk with my hands far too much, man. It's so weird. But now Tidy Plates has sort of simplified that. Now, one of the issues you run into is the mobs overlapping. So a very quick thing I'm going to tell you is that you can specifically tell Tidy Plates not to overlap the plates, so you should have an easier time. Just look for that option, it's in there somewhere. They don't overlap, they'll simply just stack up and form a huge ball. It sometimes gets messy if there's lots and lots of mobs, but in that case you should just be AoE tanking anyway. One thing I do want to say is I would practice your mouse targeting as much as possible. If you're intending to do challenge modes in some fashion, I really, really recommend you practice mouse targeting. It's so much better than tab targeting through mobs. It's so much faster and you'll have a cleaner run, a cleaner time. One thing I want to ask you for tomorrow, again, I'm going to puppy class in a moment. Friday, we're going to be talking about 10 versus 25 man raiding. So I really love it if you guys got your questions ready for that. I want to have a nice big discussion on it. Everybody has a different opinion, and that's fantastic. Let's get all the different opinions amalgamated together. Let's have a relaxing Friday. We should be live streaming tomorrow as well. But the thing I want to leave you with for today, to leave in the comments or simply to focus on, if you're going to do a challenge mode, what is your 5-man group setup? Now, I don't want Brad, Jeff, Gina, because she's got a hot voice, Steve, and myself. I don't want that. I want to know, are you taking 3 combat rogues? And a shaman and a warrior? What are you doing? What are your crazy setups? Because setup will be everything for getting that gold medal. Believe it or not, as much as player skill will come in, the group synergy is hugely important in doing very, very, very fast speed runs. Everybody can do a fast speed run with friends, But a really solid group synergy will enable you to do crazy, crazy speed runs. Are you taking 3 arms warriors and sweeping strikes in the whole dungeon down? How are you going to cope with all this sort of caster business? What about if it's got a reflective shield? That's a shitload of damage. I just want to know. I just want to know. 4 healers, 1 preach. 1 healer, tank, and 3 DPS. If only it was so easy. Taking Chuck Norris. Lol, condemned. Gina does have a hot voice. Betty White, I waste the time. 4 tanks, 1 healer, 5 prot warriors. Ooh, 5 blood DKs. Remember, they won't have vengeance. There's going to be no vengeance there, so that won't work. I'm just looking at what the quick ones are. I'd love to see 5. Just roll 5 hunters. That won't work. There's a particular heroic I know is going to be a nightmare. I can't remember the name. You know, I've done a guide. I'm not going to look it up, but it's a temple. I think it's one of the level 83 dungeons. I can't remember the name of it. It's a temple. It's going to be hell on challenge mode. And if you have a lot of melee, you're going to get fucked. Seriously fucked. And of course, 2 girls, 1 cup. How can we not end with such a thing? 5 warlocks. No. 1 DK tank. 1 monk priest. A monk priest? Well, I don't know about a monk priest. 1 hunter, a fire mage, and a shadow priest or a lock. Oh, best one so far. 1 Liam Neeson, 3 Sean Connerys, and a Darth Vader. 1 prot warrior, 2 combat rogues, 1 wrestle druid, and an arcane mage. Interesting. Interesting. Prot pally, rogue, mage, hunter, and priest. Some interesting ones. I'd love to know. I don't agree with any of those so far, by the way. For what I would take. I think, well, I'm not going to spoil it. I'll reveal it tomorrow what my setup would be for the challenge worlds based on my experience in the 5-man heroics. Alright guys, I'm going to take Ben to be trained by the most useless puppy trainer in history. And he's going to be examined today, I believe. I believe his test is today, so we should find out about that today. Alright ballers, you have a fantastic evening, and I will see you tomorrow for the big discussion on 1025 rating. Remember, send your transmogs this evening. They will close tomorrow. Keep voting for the award ceremony on Saturday. And it should be streaming tomorrow. Depending on what time our capture card arrives, I'm going to be streaming some games tomorrow. And hopefully with you guys too. Alright, ballers. Take it.